We get live right now, man. It's going down. Excited for the season. You know, we coming off a playoff win. I mean, you know, we had a couple wins.
Hello and welcome to episode 166 of Diaries, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast. We are back after it was a relatively calm week. You know, there's some games that happen, a lot of Central Division foes, a lot of teams that aren't that good. But joining me as always this week is my good friend Riley Feldman. Riley, how's it going?
It's going really well, Kyle. A lot of wins. Bobby Portis saved the season again. As we all knew, that was the main takeaway. If you read between the lines, listen between the lines to last week's podcast, it truly was that Bobby Portis saved the season when he told everybody that they suck and they need to get their act together. So we appreciate you, Bobby. And everything is cool by here. We're going to be going back down to the Milwaukee area next week, Thursday, for an extended stay in the area for Christmas and all the way kind of up to New Year's. So things are good by us.
Nice. I was going to say, focus on that, not the fact that I compared Bucks Twitter to a Paw Patrol person. Don't focus on that at all. Also joining me is Adam Paris. We brought him back before he goes on his holiday binger. Holiday binge, whatever. Hi, Adam. How's it going?
Hey, I'm good. That is true. I guess I am going to go on a holiday binge. I had a delightful time making a gingerbread house today with my daughter and my wife. I picked up like a pre-made one from Walmart, but my daughter sat on it in the cart. So when I opened it up today, the whole thing was just like in pieces, but still had a great time eating all the candy. So yeah, in full holiday spirit over here, even more so after the Bucks win.
Is the candy just like rock hard still? Because we bought one from Target last year. We bought like a gingerbread house kind of thing, and the candy was just like impossible to eat.
Yes. Yeah. So it was incredibly hard. Haley was putting many of the tiny balls into her mouth, much to my fear that she was about to choke on almost all of them with the inability to chew them. But yes, they were almost all hard, with the exception of the gumdrops, which were able to be chewed by human teeth.
Okay, well, that's good at least. But yes, we did mention Milwaukee Bucks wins. So we'll start Monday. The Bucks win 133-129 against the Chicago Bulls. It took overtime to do it, but they won. Wednesday, just a very simple 140-126 win against Indiana Pacers. Giannis scored 64 points. That is a franchise record and a new career high for Giannis. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Then the Bucks continued beating down on Central Division opponents. They played the Detroit Pistons and won 146-114 to give the Pistons their 23rd straight loss. And then tonight, as we are recording, is just immediately after the Bucks have beaten the Houston Rockets 128-119. So far, this homestand has been pretty successful. There were 4 games, and there have been 4 wins. So, Riley, what would you say has been the biggest takeaway that you have gathered from, besides Bobby saving the season?
Yeah. The biggest thing, we'll get into more Bobby talk, is because he had a great week for him. The thing that I took away is that the Andre Jackson Jr. train is at full steam ahead. Get on now while the getting's good before he blows up all the way. I'm not saying it's over for MarJon, but we need to start looking at, once Malik Beasley comes back, what that bench situation is going to look like, because Malik Beasley's been out the past 2 games with a non-COVID illness. Andre Jackson Jr. got the start in both of them. MarJon got the start as well Saturday against the Pistons, because Chris was out for rest on the back-to-back. And Ajax looks awesome. Like, he's looked great in 3 separate games. Now, the Pistons suck, so you can kind of throw that out. But he still had to guard Cade Cunningham. Did pretty solid job. He had to guard Tyrese Halliburton in the Pistons game. He, especially in the second quarter, was thrown out there essentially to just whack the shit out of Halliburton every time he tried to drive. And he got called for a couple of fouls. But if you're going to go out there and have to struggle to stay in front of a guy, at least you can like really hammer him and kind of drain him a little bit. So I liked that he took on that challenge. And then tonight, tasked with guarding a lot of different Rockets. He had Fred VanVleet was the primary assignment. He had to do a little bit of Jalen Green. I don't think he guarded Jeff Green, who's still in the league. Shout out Jeff Green. But it was an interesting series of challenges that Andre had to face between guys his size and then guys smaller, a little bit more agile. And I thought in the balance, he did a really solid job in all the different situations. He's exuberant to try and always beat his guy to the spot. He doesn't get called for dumb fouls on the perimeter, really. He's not reaching constantly. Marjan has a tendency to reach a lot, which gets him in trouble on the perimeter. Andre seems to time his reaches perfectly for a great steal. And then he, of anybody on the team, he has the best perimeter defense in terms of maintaining contact, or at least not allowing himself to get totally blown by, which is super valuable when we have so many guys who are poor perimeter defenders. And then you get on the offensive side, he's hit a couple of threes, which is great. Like, can't have any fear. You have to take them if you're wide open in the corner. And he made one against the Pistons, and then he turned and jawed right at the Pistons bench immediately, which you love to see. Love to see the confidence in a young guy like that. And then it's just we keep talking about it, stuff in the margins. Great at leaking out in transition. Great read. He forced 2 or 3 offensive rebounds against the Rockets tonight. Just sheer willpower over 3 or 4 Rockets rebounders. Just like Giannis tries to throw the game away late with a completely ill-advised 3, and Andre goes up and he gets the offensive, forces the the Rockets turn right back over. It's like all these small things where if Malik is out there, Malik is the flamethrower, but he's not really like grinding for the marginal stuff. And then Marjan could, but Marjan's motor is super finicky. So this was the week. This is not going to be like Andre starting every single game from here. I fully expect Malik to step back into the starting lineup when he's back. But this is the first week of the real ascension of like, we got in minutes. Let's see how it works. He got to close out the game. He fouled out against the Rockets, but he was in the closing lineup until that point. Great week for Andre Jackson Jr. Now is the time, and I think he appears about as ready as we've been discussing or saying that he has been for the past couple of weeks.
It's just nice seeing a rookie that can come in and do stuff and be like good. It's just nice to be like, all right, he's out there and I have no complaints. I have no worries. This is fantastic. This is everything we could have dreamed of and more. I mean, it's almost getting to the point where it's like, do we really need to keep playing Pat Connaughton and Marjon Beauchamp, and sadly maybe not AJ Green? Like, we don't have to. We don't have to get to that point. Andre Jackson Jr. can take all of their minutes. What do you think, Adam?
Well, for a second I thought you were about to slander Dante in a really bad way, because he did plenty of stuff as a rookie. But I'm glad you sort of rolled it back there. I think I feel like this is what a lot of Bucks contingent. I think we even said this early on. I mean, he's one of those players that when he's out there, you don't be like, oh, that's right, Andre Jackson Jr. is in. You're kind of like, oh, yep, Andre Jackson Jr. is in. He immediately makes his presence known, even if it's just defensively getting up in someone's face. Like, it's so obvious what a different feeling he brings to the floor. And I think it's really important defensively for a team that, yes, this is like what I'm about to say is lapsing into the Jason Kidd energy and effort, but like, frankly, I think a lot of their issues so far are, one, Malik Beasley might put out some effort, but I do think defensively some of the effort is certainly not there all the time. And I think having someone who brings what Andre Jackson Jr. does on top of the ability to actually like get around screens, I think is pretty important for setting a tone, or at least a bit of a tempo on that side of the floor that the team is going to need in the playoffs. I mean, I think that's probably something that passively like PJ Tucker was doing when he was on the team. I think he had the same sort of thing. I think he was a better communicator, obviously, than Andre Jackson Jr. probably is at this point, as still a young player. But I think the other benefit of him is he's just such a, yes, he people will probably not guard him, but he can make so much more out of when he's going to the basket, like throwing it out. I almost a little bit like a little Bruce Brownie, and I really despise Bruce Brown, but a little bit in that way where he can cut, or he can set a screen and roll and pass out of it. So I think there's certainly some offensive juice that you can wring out of him, even if the shooting is going to be pretty potentially questionable all year, although to his credit, he's been good so far.
Kyle, Trot it out. I saw the take in the group chat. Who is he the second coming of? Who are we seeing reincarnated?
Our favorite prince, Luke Richard Mbamute. It's there. And he might be a better offensive player than him. So I just think in terms of defensive capability, he's got that. In terms of just being able to do the little stuff, both of them were really good at them. That's what gave them the playing time they needed, doing the little stuff and being great perimeter defenders. And Mbamute was probably a better post defender than Andre Jackson Jr. is right now, but in the game today, that's not as needed. I would say Andre Jackson Jr. is probably more polished offensively in terms of just being able to make the right pass, still actually being able to hit threes so far in the corner, small sample size, but he seems confident enough to take those and make it. Maybe above the break and at the elbow, it gets a little dicey, but everywhere in the corners, full confidence. So I do think that he's going to be kind of similar to that guy where you can put him in and give him a tough defensive assignment. I think that's now like his ceiling is go in, guard the other team's best offensive player. Yes, you're going to probably rack up fouls, but that's okay. We just need you to tire him out. We just need you to just do as much defensive work as you can. And I think that's that. I don't know why I thought of that. I was just like, who's a player that I love because their defense was just that good? I was like, oh, yeah, there we go. So Luke Richard Mbamute, I hope he's watching Andre Jackson Jr. and is going to start charging him like Hakeem charged Giannis for those post classes that don't seem to be working. Hopefully, Mbamute teaches Andre Jackson Jr. some stuff and it actually benefits him.
Yeah, I hope Ajax doesn't go to the same 3-point clinic that Hakeem puts on that Giannis went through, because
he also Andre Jackson Jr. needs to stay as far away from lethal shooter as possible.
Yeah, we don't keep the Instagram shot lethal shooter. We got to keep lethal shooter out of the Andre Jackson Jr. business. I like the take. It's a great take. It's a take that Brew Hoop faithful, Bucks fans, online faithful really appreciate. Because Luke Richard was a early online Bucks fan favorite for good reason. The other thing I like about Andre is like he's the connective tissue in a way that a lot of fifth fiddle guys aren't. So say for tonight, right? We go into the closing lineup and Andre Jackson Jr. is out there. Last year it would have been like Grayson Allen. And Grayson was fine as a spot up shooter and he was like okay defensively. And he could drive a little bit. So I would say his offensive game, like in terms of functionality, was maybe a little bit more developed. But in terms of, like you said, making that quick pass, making the really quick read and acting on it, like, I don't know if we've seen a player like Andre Jackson Jr. Like it is Dante-esque in terms of like just make like how fast he had an offensive rebound. Giannis has like three rockets on him. Giannis like is able to punch the ball out. Ajax gets it and then immediately no look dumps it off to Dame, who's like above the break for a wide open 3 late in the game. Like, yo, you know, when was the last time we saw any newbie roll up and pull that kind of move? And then there's like Kyle or Adam said, numerous times of completely like under the basket in transition, creates a look for somebody on the 3-point line out of absolutely nothing. Like you're like that nothing is going to come up this season. Horrible position. We get an open 3 or tonight against the Rockets, he's midair. He twists, he turns, and like while in the air, he kicks it back out to I think Chris for a 3 or something. Like it's just the small stuff where you wonder how he's able to grow physically as he continues to like hopefully bulk up a little bit. But if he's processing things this quickly, that the coaching staff doesn't need to teach him a whole lot. He's like he can continue to just add to it, but he's already at such a high floor. You know, that's what you like to see, and you can kind of envision maybe not this year, but in the future in playoff series, like he's gonna really suck to have to play against for anybody. Like opposing teams, like team fan base would be like, oh my god, will this dude just like quit? Like he's going so hard the entire game. And like he's covering Fred VanVleet full court for like 40 minutes or whatever. Like, that would just drive me nuts as an opposing fan. So I'm glad he's on our team instead of the opposite.
We love it. We love it. I'll make mine quick because I know Adams is going to be probably more of a bigger talking point. Mine is simple. The Bucks, we should focus on the Bucks offense, not their defense. I know there was a comment, Riley had to spotlight it, like maybe we should just embrace offense. I think we really need to because the Bucks defense is going to probably just be average, and that's okay because if the Bucks are going to continuously drop 133, 140s, 120s every single night, then good luck to any other team trying to catch up with them. I think we saw, especially in tonight's game and the Indiana game, even when the Bucks aren't shooting the three that well, it doesn't matter because they can get every single point in the paint that is needed. And that's going to be helpful in the playoffs, not necessarily because I think we saw so many times where if the Bucks could hit threes and Giannis can't get going in the paint, there's absolutely the Bucks offense just completely craters and looks like garbage. And I think now this year there's a little bit more variety where you can have Dame be able to stretch defenses out. You can have Giannis still try and find his way, but I think he's getting better at navigating those tight spaces, even if there are 3-4 guys. Hopefully Brook isn't jacking up 12 threes, but you have other players that are capable of scoring in more ways than just simply hitting a jump shot. And I think that's the biggest thing that Milwaukee was lacking the last couple of years. It would be, Drew would shoot terribly, and it's like, okay, he can't do anything. Pat Connaughton can't hit a shot. He can't do anything on offense. Brook is going to have to get 8 post moves done before he can get a shot off. And it's just that I feel like is not going to be as much of an issue come this postseason. And it's kind of nice. And I think that's what we just have to embrace. I don't think the Bucks are going to continue to score 140 points, on a almost every other game basis, and especially against the playoffs. But if they can consistently put 115 to 120, I think that's going to bode well for them the rest of the season.
I think you're totally spot on, Kyle. I've been kind of thinking about this the past couple of weeks about feeling like, okay, I just need to think differently about how the team's going to win moving forward. That's just how it's going to be. It's not going to be awful, stuck in the mud. Let's hope we can stop them 12 times in a row, and then Drew Holiday will make a layup at some point in the final few minutes. It's just going to be. It feels very different than it ever has in the past. And the Houston game was a good example, right? Houston's the second-ranked team and the second-best defense in the league for points per possession, I believe. And part of it is because opponents have shot. I just looked this up, 31% on threes against them, so that's going to change eventually. But like you said, Kyle, the Bucks shot, what'd they shoot tonight? 36% from three, fine, 13 of 36. But that's nothing super special, in other years when the Bucks were getting to this level, they would normally be hitting, 40 something percent to be able to get there. So there's just a lot more consistent options for them to be able to go to consistently to score. Dame can almost always bail them out. Chris was looking rough for the first 3 quarters of this Houston game, but then really pulled it together in that fourth quarter there. I don't know, that might just be him, but regardless, I think I have felt like we've noticed a lot more flow, more consistency, whether it's handoffs or even, when they get stuck in those isolation possessions, it's not one. Giannis has looked really good this year doing those, but it's not Drew and Chris dribbling it off his foot or Drew doing a step back, which he was pretty good at in the regular season. It's Dame sort of consistently hitting threes, hitting clutch shots. There's better options, whatever sort of offensive mode they're in, whether it is they get stuck in some isolation or they're really moving the ball. They just have a higher floor than they have in the past, and obviously a much higher ceiling too.
I think we need to embrace the offense because the numbers say we have literally no choice. So I agree. I agree. But I just look at our defensive rating and say, there's truth in what Kyle says. And I believe Joe Ma was the commenter that I highlighted. It's we just got to learn to love offense. That's true. We do have to, it's not that I didn't love offense previously, but we have to learn to love offense as that's the way we're going to win. The couple of notes on that in terms of the offense. The defenses looked slightly better, but the Pistons are horrible. Really, 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 really bad. And
I just discount the Pistons entirely and not take anything from that game.
It's a good point. So the defenses look slightly better, and I should know we have climbed out of the bottom third. We are, as of before the Rockets game, we were 19th in the league. I think we'll probably improve a little bit more. So yeah, not bottom third, which is great. On the offensive end, tonight, I mean, throughout the week, Dame had some great performances. The speed with which he processes attacking the basket in traffic is unlike anything I've ever seen in a guard before, wearing a Bucks uniform, I should say. Numerous times tonight where the Rockets are packing the paint because Giannis is really eating Jabari Smith alive. So it's like they're throwing a lot of help his way. And Dame penetrates, and all of a sudden he's got 3-4 defenders that he's just kind of moving effortlessly around and getting good looks every single time. Like he's generating something out of nothing. He is great on the perimeter. His dribble moves, he gets himself open for pretty open threes off of like just a simple mover, like not simple, but simple for him move or two. So he can create looks like that. So shout out to Dame, who is looks to be coming really online as of late. So he kind of had a little bit of an adjustment period, but it seems like it's coming together now. Another thing I noticed, and maybe it's just a quirk and it'll something I'll kind of keep an eye out for, but it looks like we're trying to give big men who are in the paint more, like sometimes we'll see if we can ISO them completely. Like if we can really spread the floor out and get Giannis versus just him and Jabari Smith. Okay, but if Giannis or Brooke or Bobby is gradually working their way towards the paint, instead of having 4 guys standing outside to be like, okay, here's the shooters, it seems like we're trying to more actively give guys easier options to dump the ball off to closer to the basket. So I've seen a couple of big men, like it's on weak side, hedging in a little bit more, trying to be a little bit more available for dump offs to make it so it's not like your only option is you're going straight up against the defender, 2 defenders even, or you have to try and turn and get it out to whoever on the perimeter. Because let's be honest, we're not skilled at that. The big men on our team are not very skilled at that, which is fine. So you counteract it by giving them other options that aren't across the entire court. And I thought I saw a little bit more of that tonight against the Rockets. And just kind of like I've noticed it kind of tertiary in my mind that's been happening. So something to keep an eye out is look like offensively, we're making adjustments to make life easier for everybody else as well. And shout out to Chris Middleton, who is really not great for most of the game. And then he came live and made some absolute bullshit buckets, which is exactly what he's paid $30 million a year to do. So he saved the game. Game was in the balance and he hit some really, really tough shots. So shout out to Chris for sticking to it.
All right. And then Adam, what was yours takeaway?
Who did we forget to talk about? Adam?
I put Giannis is good as my main takeaway. I obviously not working at the site anymore. I don't have as good of analysis as Riley or Kyle or anyone on the site.
That's about bang on spot for Brew Hoop analysis. So.
I think there's a couple things, right? So obviously he scored 64 points against the Pacers, which was a new franchise record and was really incredible to watch. Just him absolutely sunning Miles Turner time and again and again and again, and Turner just having absolutely no option for him. I mean, he's a good rim protector, but he doesn't have the bulk to handle Giannis. He doesn't have the speed to handle Giannis. The Pacers are ill prepared to be able to try and throw any more bodies at him. So that was just an incredible performance to watch. Did I get a little frustrated by the weird ending and having to put the starters back in and all of that kind of stuff? Sure. But I definitely didn't want to let that sully what was an amazing performance by him. So obviously you two should speak on that too. But I think the thing that's been sticking out to me maybe this past week a little more is I do feel like he's slowing down and showing a little bit more patience when he has the ball, especially inside the arc or like at the free throw line, especially if teams have been throwing zones at them. He's been doing a good job, I think, of dialing up the defense, taking a second to digest it and figure out where the right read is. I think him and Dame are still working on the pick and roll. Like there's still too many times where Dame tries to throw it and it's like right at Giannis's feet or something, or he doesn't corral it. And those are annoying. But I think those will obviously get cleaned up. But I think Giannis has looked better when he gets the ball in space, on the move, making quick decisions, knowing where people are, finding his shooters. He made, I can't remember if it was this week or the other week, he made this insane pass to some guy in the weak side corner that was like an overhead pass. It was just absolutely insane. But those are like the kind of things that we got used to him doing before. And I want him to be really good at doing that stuff on the move when he just catches the ball, because that's how he's going to be weaponized a lot more now. And he's been doing great stuff with the ball in his hands, scoring like an insane amount. But I think just seeing his jump shot kind of just go away, like he's not even using it now, really, to be able to score. It's honestly crazy. Like if you look at that Pacers box score, he's all inside the arc basically, or sorry, right in the restricted area. So he's just doing an incredible job finishing around the rim with the ball in his hands. And I think for him to be able to get to the next level, part of it's going to be that patience when he gets the ball, receiving it inside the arc, trying to digest and figure out what the defense is giving him and find the right read. So I just think, I mean, Kyle, Giannis is just incredible. And obviously this capper this past week was the cherry on top of what's been an awesome career.
It truly was just phenomenal to watch. And it was, as like the game's going, it's like, okay, like, oh, and Giannis has 36 points. It was like maybe early in the third quarter. I was just like, wait, what the fuck happened? I did not realize this. And then it was getting to, okay, he's going to get to 40. Can he get to 50? Yeah, he's going to get to 50. Can he get his previous career high is 55? He can get there, right? Yeah, okay. And franchise record's right there as well. Like if he's got 55, he can get the franchise record. And it was kind of one of those where, and I think with Griffin realizing it and keeping Giannis in, he's like, no, you're 2 points away. Like, go get it. And then once he got it, and then everyone got subbed out, it's like Carla had already put the surrender lineup in. Giannis got the record. Everyone's like, all right, let's go. We're good. And then like 2 minutes later, we're seeing that it's a 10-point game. It's like, you got to be kidding me. Okay, fine. But I think that also allowed it to just show even more like what makes Giannis so good. It's like he got the ball. He's just able to get to the rim. It was getting, no one on the Pacers could slow him down. The only way, and everyone's bemoaning, oh, he took all these free throws. He was legit getting hacked out there. Like they were doing WWE attempted like 619 Hurricanranas out there on him. Like, yeah, he's going to be shooting a bunch of free throws when he's constantly getting hacked. But I think that's also the thing with Giannis is he is a force of nature, and he's someone that has grown into being able to get inside and get to the rim and get the bucket that he needs to. And his free throw shoot wasn't too bad either. So, and he's doing that while also still being good. I wouldn't say great this year defensively, but good defensively. I mean, the Pacers game especially, though, there was a point where the Pacers only scored 10 points before that lineup came in and hit a bunch of threes and made it look closer than it was. So I have said that Giannis is the greatest Buck to exist, and that is even more true after that Pacers game. And now he's pretty much got almost every record that he could have in Milwaukee. Giannis has it. I think other than 3 points made, he's not going to break that one, but every other record seems within reach for him.
I love Marcus Johnson on the broadcast. There'll be like statistical categories that Giannis really shouldn't be in, but because he's like been around and he's good enough, and Marcus will be like, yep, he's coming for me next. He's like, whatever. It'll be like the most obscure statistical category possible. And Marcus has to lament, though very graciously, as he usually does, that Giannis is going to overtake him there too. Thing that I've noticed from Giannis is what we haven't seen, which is him the first 5 or 6 possessions he gets the ball in the open court saying, all right, I'm just going to go full speed and see what happens and see how many times the refs call me for offensive fouls. He tried it 2 times, I think, tonight. And it was both like he recognized he had a lot of space and the defender was in a really bad position, and Jabari Smith in one of them. And I think Dylan Brooks, who way overcommitted to try and like take the charge 5 steps before Giannis was even there, and then he had to get the foul. And then Giannis has also become really adept at getting those shots to fall when he's going full speed and then he's falling away from the basket, like the number and ones off of those. So he still does that, but does not do it not nearly as much, which is great. That's like great news for his longevity and then like just his energy. And like you said, Adam, like he's taking the time to read the game. He can hand it off to Dame. Like Dame is there to help kind of coordinate things. There's a lot of gravity off of that. Chris can make the BS shots. I know it must be really hard for Giannis, not because it's demanding of his skills, but just imagine scoring 64 points. And like I said, dudes are just punching you all night. And you have to do that 82 nights a year, and then you get to the playoffs, and like when you put it all in context, I still kind of blame him for some of when he chooses to take like threes. But if he does like a jumper off of like a decent post move, it's totally cool because I think it forces the defense to be honest, gives him a little bit of a break. But it's challenging, physically demanding to do what he does, and the fact that he's committed to saying, okay, we joked a little bit because like when he told Dame, "Oh, I'm gonna do what I do, you do what you do," and then we looked horrible and it was like, "Oh, blah blah," like ha ha ha, how stupid. And then now we're saying, okay, Giannis is actually doubling down, like I'm just going to be the paint guy, I guess. And thank God for that because he's an like I was looking at the numbers like between him, Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic, like the amount of extra work Giannis has to do to keep up in the scoring department with those guys is absolutely insane. Like we can't. It's hard to really like put it into words what he has to do. So Giannis is good on defense. He seems to be taking a number like, so right now he shuts off the area of the court that he's in, but he's not really like we saw tonight against Sengun. If it's an individual, like he's defending in the post, it's a little iffy, and then help defense is okay, but he's not really like, I feel like there could be more opportunities for him to be the help guy to come in and swoop in, but I think he's just kind of taking it easy on defense. I'll be more curious once the playoffs comes around, but right now it looks like he's just kind of taking it easy, which is fine because he's getting the hell beat out of him on the other end of the court. And then these other coaches, they have the temerity, like with Melanie Ricks, he was like, "Oh, I talked to Monty Williams before the game, and he was bitching and moaning about how all the stuff Giannis gets away with." Like, oh my God, the temerity of these people is insane. Giannis tonight, I mean, I think it was just off a Jeff Green thing, but the amount of times that Giannis is just like blood is seeping off of his arm onto the court. Like he's just, it's hard work what this guy does. And I think we give a due amount of recognition of everything, but there's always room for a lot more because he's doing exactly what the team needs on the offensive end.
In the Rockets game tonight, so were you guys watching it? So he dripped blood on the court and they stopped it. And then the ref was pointing it out. And instead of like allowing someone to wipe it up, he just stuck his shoe on it and like cleaned it up with his shoe.
My wife was watching with me and she said, "Ew," as he did it.
Pretty gross.
And well, it was gross. And then like the camera zoomed out. I was like, I was impressed by the camera technology because that was a really small spot of blood, and they had that in 4K HD form.
They had it ready.
they had it ready to go, and it was very strange too because it's like, why they're going to have to literally like for health reasons clean up the spot anyhow. What is
No.
Is Giannis in like a nobody makes me bleed my own blood type of situation? Like he's like,
I'm just shocked it wasn't Pat Connaughton that was bleeding. Now, even though he got drilled in the face with an elbow, I was like, I was just waiting for it. I saw that. I was like, they could have cut the commercial or something. Like, we didn't even see that.
Well, and then he had the open wound, and he was like, just like, "Hey, aren't we going to keep playing?" And John Tate, I think, on the Rockets was like, "Dude, you're literally about to bleed all over me. Can you just stop the game? You're literally like your jersey is just full of blood." Ugh.
You can see Giannis being pissed off too on this. Like, hey, bro, they just give it 2 minutes of like real time. Let the doc like put on. Yeah, it was.
I was when he came back in, I was fully expecting a turnover. I was like, yeah, he's definitely going to go too hard here.
I thought when he did that, and then when he got the rebound to eclipse Kareem for record, and then he immediately like hard charged into a turnover, like a horror. Oh, a really bad like contested shot over 3 defenders that had no chance of going in at all, and he just fell over and he lost his shoe. And I turned to my wife. I was like, "What a way to commemorate the moment!" I know I felt the gears turning in his mind. He's like, "This is going to be so cool when I dunk on 4 people after getting this round of applause." But that's what makes Giannis Giannis. He's a dumb, strong, awesome guy. So shout out to that guy.
Oh, great. Yeah, I think those are pretty good points of what we learned. I don't know if we have anything for Buck the Host. There isn't anything on there, but Riley, you said I feel like I did have one question, and we can kind of piggyback off of this. But given the qualms and complaints about the Bucks point differential or lack thereof, the Bucks point differential is not as bad as one would imagine, to be honest. Like, I thought it was going to be one of those where it's like, oh, the Bucks are barely getting by 1 point, 2 point. It's going to be garbage, right? Right? No, it's not. It's actually a pretty decent point differential. It's thankfully they get boosted, I think, playing the Pistons stuff, but it is 5.2, which is third in the East. The Sixers have the highest with 11.9. Celtics are second with 9.1. 5.2 is also fourth best in the West, with the Timberwolves, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the LA Clippers barely being above that. So I guess for me, does the point differential really matter in terms of trying to understand how good a team really is?
I'm too stupid when it comes to numbers to answer this, so I'll let Adam, and then I'll do a more disquisition on state of the team, but I'll let Adam answer that specific question.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, obviously when Kyle's talking about point differential, I'm also thinking about, you think about the points per possession on offense versus the points per possession on defense, right? So, and a lot of times the markers that a lot of pundits will use are like, is someone top 10 in offense and defense? And if someone is, then most likely they're going to have a higher point differential, right? So I think the fact that the Bucks are actually at that level, Kyle, is fairly encouraging, given, like you said, all of the sort of consternation and the qualms about all of the issues so far, and all of the close games and all of those kind of things. And I think in the end it does matter some, because on some level you want to be a team that is excelling on both ends of the court, and that's what I think a strong point differential would point to. But on the other, you can get really caught up in it. Like, I've also been thinking about that with this team a lot. The year the Bucks won the title, I remember, I think I wrote going in, I was like, I just can't see this team winning the title. Like, there's just too many issues. Like, the numbers don't seem to match up. I don't feel like I've seen the type of thing that I would want to see from them to be able to succeed. And so on that level, like, sometimes the team can really gel when it comes down to it at a very particular time.
No,
so
let's be honest. You were pretty close to being right on numerous occasions on that run. But
and I was going to say the Bucks point differential was the highest in the East that year.
Yeah, but
they
but
did have the highest point differential out of all the Eastern Conference teams.
Yeah, but it wasn't like massively more than what it is this year, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So anyway, I think it matters. I don't think we need to get totally lost in the sauce with it. I do think it's the process wise that it's, at this point, I think it's more important to kind of just see what's going on the court and see if it looks good. Like, is the team getting back and not being crappy on transition defense anymore? Are they not blowing defensive assignments? How is the relationship between Giannis and Dame going offensively? Like, all that kind of stuff I'm kind of more interested in. And I didn't even know what that number was. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. This year it is 5.2. When the year they won the title, it was 5.9.
Adrian Griffin's going to point to that number in the next press conference. Like, check that for data. Shout out to you, Adrian.
But the funny thing is, last year was only 3.6.
Oh, well, we lost in the first round.
Right.
No points to the
but it's weird because, like, the year they won the title was the highest.
Yeah.
The next year in 21-22, obviously Chris gets hurt, but that was 3.4. So it's not as, if anything, the Bucks are doing better at winning by larger margins this year than they did the last two.
I've got not a lot of takes about the point differential. I just thought it was funny that we had a positive record with the negative point differential. That was a funny quirk. The one thing I will say about stats, numbers, data is not that it's not valuable, but I want to go back to these haters in the national media who are begging for an opportunity to take this team down. Only we, the Bucks fans, get to talk shit about the team. And it, like, every time Kevin O'Connor says, "Oh, Adrian Griffin should be gone," I say Adrian Griffin should get another year on his contract. That's the kind of fan I am. And then I see this, who's Hardwood Paroxysm? I can't remember his name.
Matt Moore.
Matt Moore. He's been begging for a chance to shit talk the Bucks too. And everybody this week, their whole big thing has been like, oh, look at everybody's strength of schedule. The Bucks have, I believe, per like record and point differential, the Bucks have had one of the easiest schedules in the league so far, and they have like the 9th or 10th strong, like toughest schedule in the rest of the season. Since when does any of this matter? Like how often are we all tracking strength of schedule? Like, yeah, it could be sort of helpful if you're really extrapolating out, but when we're starting to go into strength of schedule to tear down like what is a really great Bucks record and good place in the East, we're not here for that. National media, you are officially on watch. Do not talk shit about this team, even if it's completely deserved some of the time. So that's all I had to say. I don't want to hear about strength of schedule as like a reason why the Bucks are like for real or not. Like they've proven against in tight games against, NBA competition, they can win games. Yes, has it looked a little iffy? Has the defense looked really shaky? Yes, but the offenses look great. We don't have to look for every single angle possible to say the Bucks are like a complete bums at all. This is a barrage, because I think we're moving past that point, at least from our analysis of the team.
Just to piggyback off of the strength of schedule, it's not the Bucks' fault that the league decided let's give them 16 home games out of their 26. Let's not have the Bucks basically play west of the Mississippi River unless they make the in-season tournament semifinal. Like, that's not the Bucks' fault. They're winning the games they need to win. They are 14-2 at home. That is really, really good. Only the Celtics have a better home record. And they're beating up teams that are below 500. They're beating teams with 500 and above record. They're doing it in close games. They can do it in blowouts. Like, the Bucks are doing exactly what we're asking them to do. They're only a game and a half away from the Celtics, who, again, we said it's going to be the Bucks and the Celtics. Those are the top two. The Sixers are getting by somehow. I have not looked to see how the Sixers are doing so well, but I guess getting rid of James Harden will always make your team better.
One more point, sorry, Adam, then I'll clear out for you. If I was the media, and, we could say we're part of the blogging media, I should be even more optimistic. I should be more fearful of the Bucks, because they let us be a bunch of dumb oafs with the easiest schedule in the league. They let us figure it out with like very little challenge early on, and now we seem to have a clue what we're doing. That should be like, I should be more fearful of what the Bucks are capable of now that they've had like an easy. So let's spin this the best possible way. We don't need to be looking for the negative all the time, folks.
Okay, I just had one. I had one really quick Buck the host question myself, as a guest on the podcast. So it doesn't have to be long, but because I think we're coming off a week of straight heat from Bobby Portis, and I still find myself gravitating towards I would be very comfortable trading Bobby Portis. So I just want like a quick temperature check from both of you on where you're at with
God
Bobby.
Damn it, Adam! This was one of my rapid fire questions I wrote.
Sorry,
that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. You can. We'll take it. So sorry. So restate the question one more time, please.
I'm just looking for a quick temperature check on Bobby, because I am still sort of holding steadfast to I think I would be very comfortable moving him for a different player, but I recognize his value offensively, and also perhaps his greatest skill, which is getting the crowd excited at Fiserv, which I think like no one else on the team is quite as good at that. But I just wanted both of your kind of feeling on Portis right now.
I would not be quick to move him. If you can get a home run deal out of it, okay, fine. Like, it's the same thing like when they traded Drew for a Dame. It's like, it's gonna suck, but if you can get a just significantly better player out of it, okay. It'll be sad, but I will be all right. I would say I'd rather move Pat than moving Bobby, and that's more because Andre Jackson Jr. has shown he can take Pat's minutes, and Milwaukee can be just fine. So I'm not in we cannot trade Bobby no matter what. It's just it would have to like be a clear, like, we are upgrading on some area in order to, whether it's upgrading on a backup big, upgrading on a wing, another wing defender, or like a wing player. It would have to be a significant upgrade for me to be like, okay, yeah, sure.
This is such a hard question because the defense is not good. It remains of all the big men, Bobby remains quite significantly the worst defender of the group. but there is a certain je ne sais quoi about the way Bobby plays, the way, like you said, the crowd. If somebody goes after Giannis, Bobby is the first one to immediately escalate. It does not matter if, like, it looks, maybe it wasn't all that dirty. Bobby is more than happy to escalate immediately with whoever the other player is. And I think that's valuable. Not having Jay Crowder out there is a miss there. So Bobby fills a gap there. And the question I was going to ask was, do we underrate? It wasn't so much trade Bobby or not. It was, do we underrate Bobby's role as a glue guy? Not so much gluing the way the team plays like together on the court, but more so like off the court, morale, spirit, whatever you want to call it, like all the most intangible possible things. Things most impossible to quantify, I should say. And I think we tend to, like, the number of times we talked in the past, like, okay, Giannis had his one leader moment in the finals where he punched that chair while Jeff Teague looked on completely uninterested in the situation. Dame doesn't, like, talk. He seems very nonplussed. Chris, like, so, like, I run through the list, and it's, if we get rid of Bobby, it's Adrian Griffin, who's a rookie coach who Bobby has already tried to lead a coup against,
challenged,
and passionately challenged, and the players, the players have had a polite coup against, and Thanasis. So I just think back to our title run, and PJ having to coach Bud to be like, hey, it's gonna be all right. We're gonna, like, him and PJ and Bobby were like, their exuberance was a key part to the wins, even if it was ugly basketball at times. So I'm probably, and this is so messed up because it literally, like, it's been a week of good play from Bobby and I'm back on board, but he showed why he's valuable. So I'm probably back off the Bobby trade, but at the end of the day, if I'm being completely dispassionate, we could probably get rid of Bobby and be all right. Once the lineup starts tightening up in the playoffs, but I would really rather not. I'd love to keep him because he's embraced by the city. He embraced the city. He has his own Visit Milwaukee ads. He's a good guy. So I'd much rather keep him, but if it has to happen, it has to happen. I'm sorry, Bobby. Also, he's the type of dude who would do everything in his power to put up 40 against us every time he plays us against whatever team he goes to. So, so I'd rather not do that.
The revenge game would be something
amazing.
So
people in the stands would be rooting for him to put up 50 against us in the forum. Like, that's the kind of situation we'd be in. So I'd like to keep him, but I think it's important. I think that's, at the end of the day, it's important what he brings, and we don't talk about it nearly enough because it's hard to talk about it outside of, hey, remember when Bobby immediately started shoving dudes and threatening to fight them? Like, there's not much more analysis, but that does matter, I think.
Having that dog in them, you can't grade having that dog in them. But we are going to move on to our miscellaneous stuff. So first, rapid fire. Riley's, or one of those questions has already been asked, so hopefully as others.
We're down to 4. We had 5. We're down to 4. If that's okay. It's the debate it's tearing a nation asunder. Which nickname is more appropriate for AJ Green? A. Ray Green, the nickname that I'm trying to get to stick, or Dairy Bird by, I believe, Marcus Johnson gave it to him. I don't know who, and then on tonight's broadcast against the Rockets, Marcus said Dairy Bird again, and I don't think Lisa heard him correctly and thought she was like Gary Bird. Did that? Was that I don't know. Was a Rocket okay, I didn't.
I had it on mute because I was trying to get the kids to bed. So
okay, well, you missed a hell of an exchange between Lisa and Marcus. Dairy Bird, what do we think about that as a nickname for AJ Green? I'm still partial to A. Ray Green because I think it's hilarious manifestation, but Dairy Bird.
A. Ray Green flows better than Dairy Bird. Just sounds weird.
So what's more absurd, comparing AJ Green to Ray Allen or to Larry Bird?
Comparing him to Larry Bird. Larry Bird is a top player.
Right, like Larry Bird, arguably greatest power forward of all time. Like, you can make the argument for Larry Bird being the greatest power forward of all time.
Yeah, okay.
Ray Allen, that's just us. That's just Bucks fans being dumb.
Okay. Oh, okay. So do we have so that's just the thought is absurd and stupid or what?
I prefer A-Ray Green as well.
Yeah.
I think I'd keep it in like the Bucks family because again, I like AJ Green as well, and I know he's like Kyle's favorite player of all time, but I don't think he'll be long for the team
Top
forever.
five, at
So
least.
Hey, dude, every time I watch him though, his muscles, his upper body, my man put in some work in the gym this summer. He's actually, and he's not a great defender. He's not horrible. He has the want to. He has good anticipation too, trying to like if his guy starts moving, he tries to beat him to the spot often, which I appreciate. So
The legs just aren't there. The legs just aren't there.
He's a great throw-in piece with Bobby.
Yeah, him, Marjan, and Bobby are going to be killing it wherever they end up. Okay, all right. So we didn't talk too much about GameBall-Gate, the fracas in the forum, whatever we want to call it. This will be your chance to talk about that if you want. But the question is, are the Pacers currently a top 3 rival of the Bucks? And you guys can name your rivals if they don't make the top 3. So for me, I'll say for me, it goes Celtics, it goes Sixers. And then I would probably like just based off of recent, probably the Pacers. I think there's more juice there than the Heat. The Heat have been kind of weird because it's like either they dominated us or we dominated them. There wasn't really much of an in between. I like the recent history. I like that Tyrese Halliburton has a Wisconsin connection. He's turning heel. I love all that. So that's my top 3. I would say they are in the top 3 of Bucks rivals. What say you guys?
I'm not there yet. Just because the Pacers have been not relevant enough to it feels like the Chicago Bulls, like what, 2 years ago, where all of a sudden it was like the Chicago Bulls fans were really into it, and it was like, oh, we want Milwaukee, and then Grayson Allen shot them dead, and the Bulls have not been relevant since. I don't think it's going to be that extent with the Pacers. I just feel like with the Pacers, it's growing. I think a playoff series would absolutely escalate it, but I would still say the top 3 are Celtics, Sixers, and Heat. Just because with the Heat, it's okay. You've knocked us out of the playoffs twice. We've knocked you out of the playoffs, and whoever seems to win that series goes on to at least the finals. Miami can't win it because they still are Jimmy Butler and some bums. But
yeah, I think I agree with Kyle almost exactly on the top 3. I like the Pacers. Obviously, they're frisky. There's lots of the games were good. They have Jordan Nwora. That's something I guess.
Marcus Johnson absolutely was just like, oh, that's the white flag right there.
Yeah, that was great.
That was funny.
I think I'd go with those. Chicago's just too sad right now. New York, I wish we would have like a playoff series with New York. I know we beat them, but I do find the games normally pretty entertaining.
We've beat them. We've beat them 8 in a row now. We haven't lost in 2. We haven't lost in
close.
We haven't lost in 2 years to the Knicks. Wow. Not even since that matinee game with Rodney Hood in the Garden where he had the Rodney Hood game. We didn't even lose that game. We haven't lost in 2 years to the Knicks. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I will say Ball-Gate Pacers. I'm gonna bring back a good old line. Karma, bitch. You lose to the Wizards the next game? That's embarrassing. Losing to T-Wolves, that's whatever. The T-Wolves are good this year. But losing to the Wizards? That's just karma.
Did they beat the Suns tonight? Oh, Suns came back.
They play the Clippers tomorrow. The Suns barely got past the Wizards, though, tonight.
This just shows how much of a prisoner of the moment I am. We have one tussle and I'm like, they're my rivals now. Like any team will play like the Utah Jazz and like it'll be a little spicy. I'm like, are the Utah Jazz the top 3 Bucks rivals? I'll ask in the pot after that. It's definitely the kind of series where like it like the hype will be really high, but then we just got a lot more like dudes who got motherfucker in them, and we'll just clown the Pacers. So I fully expect that if we play them in the playoffs. Okay. Not a very rapid fire. That's my fault. Favorite and least favorite or worst Christmas song or holiday song, if it transcends that.
Well, I'm going to say worst is All I Want for Christmas Is You, and I'm not sorry about saying that at all.
Mariah Carey.
Yes, I hate it.
Yeah, I've come to your position over time.
It's just overplayed. So that's the worst. Best, Jingle Bell Rock is always a solid. I'd say that's a good, like, it's inoffensive. I enjoy it, so I can't really think of that many like good Christmas songs other than the Grinch. Just pure hatred, pure petty, which is the Grinch. That's my top Christmas one.
I like Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney as my top one. Worst is Baby It's Cold Outside.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
Dude, you son of a bitch, Adam. And I'm not going to defend Baby It's Cold Outside on the strength of the lyrics, but it's such a good duet song. It's such a good duet song, isn't it? Because the lyrics are like supposed to be problematic because she's like, oh, I really should like go home. And he's like, nah, you should just chill out here. And it's like, 1950s style, whatever. But I love the duet in that song. Every version of it is great, in my humble opinion. From the Elf
watch the
version.
movie Love Hard. Watch the movie Love Hard, and they have their own remix of it. And there you go.
Okay. What's the Wham song? Last Christmas? Is that what it is? I hate that song. Is that what it is? Am I speaking out of turn here? Is it Wham?
I
think you're right.
Yeah, it's not a good one. I just asked because my friend group asked earlier this week. I like that one. I also like is it Auld Lang Synes? Whatever. I know that's more of a New Year's song, but I get
I thought that was always New Year's.
I just extended the holidays. I get goosebumps on New Year's Eve when that song plays. Because I'm a very emotional person. Final question of the evening. Inspired by the holidays, inspired by mall Santas, and small Santas around the world. Do you guys find people dressed, and I have it written here as imaginary creatures, off-putting? So I'm thinking guy who's dressed up as Santa at the mall, somebody's dressed up as Mrs. Claus, as the Easter Bunny. Like, I'm running out of other, but like that sort of thing. I just find it kind of off-putting when I'm at the mall and I see a guy dressed up as Santa. And I'm like, that's just, I don't have kids, so maybe it's different, but I'm like, nah, it's just strange to me. This is a dumb question. I'm fully aware.
I'm actually having to think on it.
It's thought provoking. I don't know. I think people dressed up as the Easter Bunny is pretty creepy because the Easter Bunny, I think, is those costumes always kind of creep me out. I'm pretty fine with Santa. When I think about the concept of being like I'm putting my child on a stranger's knee, that's weird. But I don't think I get really weirded out by Santa.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Seeing Santa, if someone's dressed as Santa before Thanksgiving, I am not about it. You have Thanksgiving and New Year's. No, Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. Go ahead and be Santa. After Christmas, cut that shit out. We're done.
I guess my objection would also, and this is where I'm a true Scrooge, it would extend out to like going to Disney World and somebody's like, and I know it's for the kids, but like somebody's dressed up as like the princesses or somebody's dressed up as like Peter Pan. I'm like, don't.
If it's at Disney, fine. Like people gotta make money. If you're at Disney,
you gotta make money. You gotta make money.
Is your objection that like those aren't that you're like they aren't the real Peter Pan?
No, I just don't. I just don't want to be. What I fear is becoming, and this is my main character syndrome coming out, is suddenly having to interact with another grown adult dressed as Peter Pan in front of a crowd. Yeah, this is so dumb. Whatever.
The simple answer is don't.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just
my goal going to Disney World. Like I don't want to talk to you. Just take the damn picture and let's move on.
or like they'll have like the parade at Disney World with like all the characters. I'm not going to be on the front row. I don't want Mickey Mouse coming over and dapping me up. I'm not about that. And it's not because it's not actually Mickey Mouse, because I'm able to logically understand that Mickey Mouse is an animated character. But it's just, I don't.
It really does better be okay with just going my shoulder and seeing from the back. I'm not getting close to the road.
That's exactly. Yeah.
Cycles up there. They're going to fight.
I just have
stabbed.
I have no desire to interact with the character actors in a public setting. So that's, I guess, and we can psychoanalyze that more down the road. That can be a new segment. So that's all I had for rapid fire this week. It was a series of questions.
So you want to go ahead and talk about your fountain pen then?
Yeah, the place where I confide all my fears of dressed up characters throughout the universe. This week, this will be the last piece of new paper I have for a while. Hopefully I'll get some more over the holidays here. It's a Tomio River pad. Nothing crazy. We've talked about Tomio River paper a couple weeks now. Same company, same whole deal. You'll see here, you can't barely see it. Very light lines. What this is supposed to be is for writing letters. And it's the end of the year now. I am getting through writing a whole bunch of people end of the year letters where I express how much I am grateful to have them in my life and all the things that are going on in my life, just like a little update thing or whatever. So I've in the past had pads of paper, really nice paper, because I have to use the pens on something. And this is here and it'll do the job. So nothing crazy, but if you want something that's like a nice looking little piece of letter paper to send to people, why not go for a Tomio River pad? It's very cheap. It was like maybe like $6 or something for like 80 sheets of really good paper. So shout out to
then
Tomio
is it
River.
like small enough that like you could just like rip it out and then put it in an envelope and call it good, or you still have to like fold it?
You do. I do believe you have to fold it once in half. There's okay. A lot of these brands, they sell envelopes that, well, this is hilarious. They like make the envelopes out of the really good paper so you can go all the way. And then they'll sell you like wax stamps so you can like put in your initials on the back. Like they go all out. So I didn't get, these will just fit in like a regular envelope with a fold in half, but usually I don't have to triple or quadruple fold to get them in, which I appreciate. So
nice. All right. So the pad, if you're writing letters, go get it. I do have a film. I was going to do Garfield, so I'll save that for another day, but I am instead going to do Look, Sterling saw Garfield and wanted to put it on. It was the second one. It was the first one. Getting sidetracked. The movie is called Nimona. So it is based off of a graphic novel that was written back in like 2015 or something. Basically the premise of the story is there is this one guy. It's kind of set in like a futuristic, it's like set kind of in the future, but also ties back more to like the Middle Ages. So like knights and dragons and like swords and shields and stuff like that. It's kind of like middle-aged knights and everything, but more futuristic is the setting. But basically the main character, he is becoming a knight, but it gets framed for a crime. And he has to try and prove his innocence, and no one is going to help him. But the only person that will is this kind of human / shapeshifter who can, again, shift into whatever animal person they want to. So it's kind of like the unlikely pairing kind of trope that you're going with in terms of like, oh yeah, these two people that don't know each other and probably would never be like a team, become a team. But it was really fun. It's an animated movie. I think it was like really well written. The animation was pretty cool as well. So I had a really good time. I had never heard of it. So I think it had enough. It's enough of comedy where you can get like, there's definitely some jokes that like get a good chuckle, and there's definitely some like subliminal things that you have to catch on. The story is pretty good. It's also it's like both good and heart wrenching. If you're a big fan of character redemption and not judging a book by its cover, excellent movie as well. But I don't know, it was like an hour and a half long, so it wasn't that long of a movie. I think it's kind of like a fun act. It has like a couple fun action scenes, so I just had a good time with it. So I give it an 8 out of 10. It's on Netflix. It came out in the summer, so I don't know. It was just a fun movie that I went in with absolutely no idea what the hell it was going to be, and kind of walked away like, oh yeah, I would definitely recommend watching that. Or if someone like said, hey, do you want to watch this? I would be down to do so.
It's interesting. I saw some trailers for this and I was thinking, it was like, oh, that seems like good. And then I saw, is it Netflix?
Yeah.
Was it Netflix produced it? Did
they
produce it?
It's on Netflix. Netflix. Yeah, I think the interesting thing is Disney started, like a studio within Disney had started like the movie and production and animation. And then Disney cut the studio and it was like 75% done. And then Netflix and someone else picked it up and finished it.
That's cool. Yeah, it looked interesting to me. So I'm going to go take a look at this because at the time I was like, oh, and I didn't catch when it was coming out. So, and I was a little nervous because Netflix produced stuff. But if another studio had already built it most of the way.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those where someone else did most of the heavy lifting. And I think Netflix primarily just provided the money to finish it.
Cool.
No,
good pick.
Yeah. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So Nimona, check it out on Netflix. Yeah, and now we are going to close it out with weekly predictions. So we have Tuesday, the Bucks continue playing games at home where they have the San Antonio Spurs. Thursday, they host the Orlando Magic. Milwaukee will want to get payback after losing to them early in the year. And then Saturday, we get to go to New York to take on the New York Knicks in a warm-up before the Christmas Day game. So, Adam, what do you think the record is going to be? Will Milwaukee continue its winning ways this week?
I'm feeling good. I'm going 3-0 with this particular set of games. I think. Please don't lose to the Spurs, who I can't. I think they're also on a long losing streak. So
they just snapped it. They just
did.
Snapped
they really?
It, yes.
Oh.
I mean,
I guess the Lakers. Yeah.
Oh, congrats to them. So hopefully that won't happen again. And then
they did lose 146 to 110 to the Pelicans tonight, though.
Oh, God, that's bad. I think the Magic game will be a really interesting barometer. I think the Magic have particular players that could give the Bucks trouble on the defensive end, I think, as we saw in that first matchup. So that's the one I'm the most uncertain about, but I think they'll go 3-0 still.
I think Riley. They will also go 3-0. We've won 8 straight, and everything's kind of lining up, guys. This is really special. Saturday in New York, guess the start time, 11:30 Central. This is the second coming. Now, we don't have anybody on the roster nearly as non-NBA player as Shemi Hood and Rodney Hood were, or Shemi Hood. Sorry. Shemi Ojale and Rodney Hood were. But I believe in the deep bench and whatever shenanigans are going to happen in the Garden matinee Saturday, 3-0. I'm really looking forward to the Giannis Wembanyama matchup, just so we can nip all that in the bud. I think Victor has been great, but this will be a good, continuing humbling rookie year for him. So it'll be a good matchup. But 3-0 this week.
Yeah, I want to say 2-1 just because the Magic game is kind of the one where I'm like, if things like go a little bit slow, I can see Milwaukee but I think they've figured it out enough that they'll go 3-0. I think Orlando is starting to cool off a little bit now. Granted, they lost their last 2 games, but they're both against the Celtics. So not a big indication of things. I just feel like they're starting to cool off a little bit more in the last few weeks after having like a 10 game winning streak or something like that. So I'll still say 3-0. I do believe we're just going to go into Christmas. And I think the good thing with the Saturday game is this will give Milwaukee a warm-up for when it's Christmas Day, and that game starts at 11. So even earlier on Christmas. But that is all that we have for this week. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like, subscribe, give us a review on your respective podcast apps. We are still working through the Spotify, Apple bug, whatever. So blame Tim Cook and whoever runs Spotify. Blame them, not us. And make sure to check out all of our weekly stuff. Monday morning media roundup, Tuesday tracker, weekly Wednesday wrap up, question and antlers, if that's coming back. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know. We'll figure that out. And the results of said tracker on Fridays and Van's report card. So we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you sharing this with all your friends, and we will talk to you soon.